Talk Online on Paltalk.com. Guy Jacobson shot Holly, Holly, on location in Cambodia. The film includes many scenes in actual brothels in the notorious red light district of Phnom Penh. In the film, Patrick, played by Ron Livingston, is an American card shark and dealer of stolen artifacts, not the most pleasant individual you would want to know, not the kind of guy that maybe you would, at first blush, invite to your holiday table to break bread. But while in Cambodia, he encounters a 12-year-old girl named Holly, who has been sold by her impoverished family, I believe in Vietnam, to a child trafficker, and then was smuggled across the border to work as a prostitute in Cambodia. And she befriends him, or he befriends her, and Patrick desperately attempts to save Holly from her intended fate. Now, they did not just pick this topic willy-nilly. It's part of the K11 project, which raises awareness of the epidemic of child trafficking and the sex slavery trade. Jacobson is also founder of the Red Light Children Campaign, a global initiative designed to raise awareness of child sexual exploitation. Guy Jacobson, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all ours. Let's start with talking about the problem of child prostitution, which many people are just, blissfully unaware of. It's going on around the world. I presume this is not just a Southeast Asian problem, and I fear you're going to tell me that there are large numbers of children who are so exploited.
Well, unfortunately, it is not only Southeastern Asia. I think, according to figures, here in the U.S. alone, there are over 400,000 underage child prostitutes. In New York City, where I live, there are over 12,000. And really, this problem exists in every city, big or small, in every country in the world.
Wait a minute, you're telling me that right here in New York City there are 12,000 children who are forced into child prostitution right here in New York City?
Yeah, and again, nobody have, really accurate numbers. As you can imagine, this is a problem that is very, very much underground and undercover. So, but according to estimates, yeah, in New York City alone, there are over 12,000 underage prostitutes.
So I'm kind of curious about that. I would imagine that in Cambodia, where your film Holly is centered, a child may be reticent to reach out and tap a cop on the shoulder. But I've got to imagine that here in New York City, that if a child walked up to a police officer and said to that police officer, I'm in trouble, there would be swift and decisive action. What prompts them or precludes them, I guess, from doing just that?
Well, I think that a big part of it is, and depends on the age of the children, is, kind of saying many stories, and each of them are somewhat different in respect to why or why not. And I think that first you have kids that are very, very young and are held in brothels that, and they're not necessarily American, they don't necessarily speak English. They're threatened, they're held in places that they can't walk to a policeman. They may be moved around quite often, not to, have access to regular customers. This is not, it's not that people, they may be afraid that somebody will harm their family, it may be afraid that somebody will harm them. It's unfortunately, you're speaking about a crime against humanity, and there are no simple answers as to why it's there, why we, how to solve it.
Well, in the case of, and we're going to get into detail about your film Holly, the little girl was sold by her family, I believe, in Vietnam, smuggled by these traffickers in children across the border to Cambodia, where she was forced into a life of prostitution. Where do these kids come from in the developed world, in the United States, in Canada, in the United Kingdom? Where are these children coming from who are turning tricks in the back rooms and alleys and streets of these countries?
Well, I mean, many of the kids are coming, maybe trafficked here within the U.S. I think the overwhelming majority in every country are kids that are, are trafficked within the country. In the U.S., and again, depends also what part, you have kids that, trafficked from Mexico and South America. You have kids that are trafficked from Asia. You have kids that are trafficked from Eastern Europe. So I think in 2005, either late 2005 or early 2006, for example, the LAPD had a raid on all of the massage parlors, or some of them, and rescued over 100 sex slaves, most of which were trafficked in from Korea. If you are in New York and you open the Village Voice or, some of the other publications and look at the, last 10, 20, 30 pages in the publications, you may see a lot of advertising for, massage parlors and so on, many of which are, have sex slaves, not all necessarily underage, but some are. So there, unfortunately, it's not as hidden as one might suspect. I mean, you can probably walk within Manhattan to, various of those places and, quite easily find women or sometimes underage women that have been trafficked or are sexual slaves. And again, it doesn't have to be from overseas. I think many of them are not, maybe runaways that are being taken advantage of, maybe kids that were kidnapped here from, who have nowhere to go. So it's more common than most people know.
Yeah, well, that's very unfortunate. I want to get into some of the solutions, because one of the things we like to do on this program, Guy, is talk about solutions as well. And we have a very active and concerned audience, and I'm sure they're going to want to hear about that. My guest is Guy Jacobson. He is a filmmaker. His film Holly is award-winning and critically acclaimed, and about a little girl who was sold into the sex slave trade in Cambodia by her parents, who were impoverished in Vietnam. And I presume that your film Holly is a fictionalized account of what happens, unfortunately, all the time in Southeast Asia.
Right, and well, Holly, although is a story of one girl who is Vietnamese, and we shot the film in Cambodia, is really, I can't say that it is about Cambodia or about Vietnam just because of what we just discussed. Since this is a problem that affects well over 2 million kids worldwide, Holly is really, for us, representing all of those kids, regardless of where they are